We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast, where I am fired up today, guys. I'm fired up because today is the day that we kick off my summer Georgia football position unit preview series leading up to the start of fall camp with a deep dive look at what I believe to be a very promising wide receiver unit for the Georgia Bulldogs in 2025. So we're going to have a ton of fun with that today, guys. Before we get there, if you haven't already, what are we waiting on? Go ahead, subscribe to this channel right now. If you're a diehard Georgia fan, you want to make sure to subscribe to this channel right now. Turn those notifications on because everything we do here is designed for you guys, including these deep dive previews. So subscribe, like, comment, and let me know. Who do you guys think will be Georgia's top receiver this year? Who do you think are the guys that we're sleeping on that are going to do big things for Georgia that people maybe aren't talking about this year? Get that conversation started. I would love to hear from you guys. But all right, we've got a lot to talk about today, guys. So let's not wait longer. Let's go ahead and dive in. I know that we're still technically, about 6-ish or so weeks away from the start of Georgia football's 2025 fall camp. And the casual fan might not turn their attention fully towards Georgia football until the week of fall camp, right as it started, maybe right around SEC Media Days. But that ain't us, guys. That's just not what we do here on the Glory UGA podcast. We're not going to wait until the week of fall camp to start churning out some puff pieces that don't really tell you much of anything. We're going to head start today so we can do deep dive previews into each and every position unit on the Georgia football team leading up to the start of fall camp. And up first, we are going to turn our attention, set our sights on the Georgia wide receiver room. And I'm starting with wide receivers. I know that might be kind of a curious choice, but I'm starting with the receivers because I think that this unit is highly intriguing. I think this might be the unit that is in line for the single biggest turnaround of all the positions on the Georgia football team in 2025. The issues from a year ago for the receivers, guys, are very well documented. You don't need me to really tell you that, right? You don't need me to tell you that we led the country in drops. You don't really need me to tell you that we had trouble getting consistent separation. You don't really need me to tell you that we just had a general lack of playmakers at receiver last year. You all saw it week in and week out, game in and game out. It was a problem. It was one of the biggest deficiencies on the entire Georgia team last year. An offense that had a lot of deficiencies, it was certainly up there. So addressing that deficiency was clearly one of the top priorities for Kirby Smart and company as we entered this offseason, because the Dogs have put together, guys, what I believe to be arguably, I think we might look back in 5 or 6 months, come November, come December, come January, what could arguably end up being the single most talented wide receiver unit in Georgia football history. I think we have completely flipped this room, and I'm very excited about what these guys can do this year. So with that, let's talk about it. Let's dive into these guys and who I think will be the headliners, who might be in the rotation, who might be some sleepers that we need to know. At the top here, guys, if you look at the headliners in this room, I think the 3 stars, if we're staying a guy who starts at X, at Z, in the slot, let's say 11 personnel, I think that starting trio will come from some combination of the following 4 players. Colby Young, who came over from Miami prior to last year, was banged up in fall camp, kind of missed a little bit at the start of the year, and then we know the off-field issues happened, and he basically missed half the year after that, right? He's back. He's fully back. Been with us for a full offseason. So you got him. You got Noah Thomas, the 6'6" Texas A&M transfer. You got Dylan Bell, who's now been with the Dogs for a while, man. He's been around. He's a vet now. And then the USC transfer, Zachariah Branch. I think it'll be some combination of that group of 4 players that will start for Georgia in 11 personnel. Now, what that exactly looks like, TBD. That's what fall camp is for. Now, I can tell you what I saw at spring practice, going to practice during the coaches clinic, going to G-Day. I can tell you what I saw there, and that's a good starting point, but we still have a month of fall camp ahead of us to figure this out, for guys to make moves, for guys to entrench themselves, for guys to make impressions. That's what fall camp is all about. So if I had to guess right now, if I had to handicap it for you, going back to G-Day, the unit that tried out there as the first 3 wide receivers, 11 personnel, which actually our first offensive snap with the number 1 offense, was Colby Young, Noah Thomas, and Dylan Bell in the slot. Now, we'll get to the slot in a minute. I want to start with X and Z because I think this is interesting. I think that the top 2 options there are going to be Colby Young and Noah Thomas. The question for me, I don't really have a question about that. The question for me is who plays where? Who plays X, who plays Z? I think they're kind of interchangeable. I think they both have the the skill set, the prototypical size, although certainly Noah Thomas is a little bit bigger, but I think they both have the size, the skill set to function effectively at X. I believe they can both be X receivers, like very good, maybe even dominant X receivers. I think they both have that kind of potential. Neither one's been that yet in their career, but I think that potential somewhere in there for both those guys, if we can just get it out of them, they can stay healthy and stay on the field for a full year. So it wouldn't shock me if it was Noah Thomas at X. It wouldn't shock me if it was Colby Young. But I do think there's a very strong likelihood that we will want to get both those guys on the field at the same time as much as possible. So I do think one will play X and one will play Z. If I had a handicap right now, I'm going to say Colby Young at X. I think Noah Thomas at Z. I'm going to say I think Thomas might have a little extra speed there. Again, it could be interchangeable. I don't know. That's what fall camp's for. We'll figure that out. I think those guys will end up probably being our top 2 receivers this year if I had to project it right now here in late June ahead of fall camp. Dillon Bell is an interesting player as well. So last year, you know the story. He wasn't slated to play X receiver for us throughout like spring practice, the early part of the offseason. But because of a confluence of events, you have the Rara Thomas situation. Yeah. We had the Colby Young situation that kind of materialized about halfway through the year. And he was also banged up in fall camp. We shouldn't have a lot of X bodies out there, right? So we took a guy in Dillon Bell who'd been in the system for a couple years, and we moved him from Z, which is more of a natural position for him, and had him play X for the majority of the year last year. And you had Arian Smith play more Z, right? That kind of was just the best fit based on the bodies that we had available to us. But the reality is that Dillon Bell's not really an X receiver. Like, he can function there, like he can play there, he did. But yeah, I mean, last year, what did he put up at X? 43 catches for 466 and 4 touchdowns. Nothing to scoff at. Fine, decent, solid, but also not spectacular. Not game-breaking type stuff. And I don't put that on him. It's not his fault, man. Like, that's not what he is. He was being asked to do something that's not really what he's made to do, right? And I give the guy a lot of credit. He did what was needed for the team. This wasn't a Rafael Devers situation. Let's go Major League Baseball, where the coach of the team asks you to do something for me out of necessity, and you're like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm not going to do that. No, Dillon Bell was like, all right, coach, you need me to play running back? Yeah, I'll do that. You need me to play X? Yeah, I'll do that, even though it might not be in my best interest, right? So I respect him for that, but that's not really a natural position for him. So this year, when you have Colby Young coming back into the fold, who I thought was more of that X receiver for us last year, but injuries, off-the-field stuff obviously got in the way of that. He's back, and then you bring in a big body type, a big athletic body type, tall, long, athletic Noah Thomas. All of a sudden, you don't need Dillon Bell to play out of position anymore, right? That frees him up to play a more natural Z position or the slot. He played a fair amount of slot for us. In fact, opened G-Day as the starter in the slot, which was somewhat surprising for me. I thought it would be Zachariah Branch, but it was Dillon Bell. Now, Zachariah Branch subbed in liberally there with the number 1 offense at the slot position, but it was Dillon Bell that was out there first. Now, maybe that's because he's been in the system longer and he's been a vet. He's a leader on the team, so you want to give him the nod there at G-Day because, like, what does it even matter? Maybe, I don't know, but he was there. That's all we can say. So I think it'll be some combination of those 4. If you look at the slot, personally, I was impressed with Dillon Bell, like what I saw from him at practice at G-Day working in the slot. Because let's be real, like, this is a guy that, again, by necessity, in 2023, played some running back for us. I think he has more of like a true running back body anyway. Like, he's a thicker guy. He's more well-built, not the tallest guy, but he's got that kind of thick running back body. He's a guy with the ball in his hands in space can make plays. He's not a guy that's going to burn you down the field consistently. Like, that's not really what he does, but he has a skill set, and that skill set can really be maximized in the RPO game, the screen game, in the slot. So I was encouraged with what I saw from him there. I think he's also a tougher physical guy that can go across the middle, make some of those tougher catches, but he also doesn't quite have that extra gear. Good athlete, but maybe doesn't have that extra gear that a guy like Zachariah Branch does. Zachariah Branch is that home run threat in the slot. He's a guy that isn't as physical of a runner with the ball in his hands in space as like a Dillon Bell, but twitchier, maybe more elusive in space. Got that short area, that twitch that maybe Dillon Bell doesn't quite have. He has some of that, but it's not quite to the level of a Zachariah Branch. So I think both those guys are going to play a lot for us in the slot. I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to handicap that. If we're talking about week 1 against Marshall, I want to say Zachariah Branch is more of a true slot receiver. But again, Dillon Bell's been in the system. He's that veteran. He's that leader. The coaches trust him. So right now, I might give him a slight edge to start for Georgia at the slot. But again, I think him and Zachariah Branch are going to trade out a lot that position. I also think Dillon can fill in and play Z in a way that Zachariah Branch just cannot. So we'll see how that turns out. I think those are your top two guys to watch in the slot. Top two guys at XZ interchangeable there would be Colby Young and Noah Thomas. And guys, Noah Thomas is a freak athlete. If you don't know much about this guy, I previewed the receiver unit a little bit going into spring practice. But if you missed that, if you're new to the show, Noah Thomas is 6'6", 200 pounds. And the guy can run. Like, he's an explosive 6'6", 200 pounds. Last year for A&M, have put up good numbers, like kind of like Dylan Bell, good numbers, but nothing that like makes you stand up and take like crazy notice. 39 catches, 574 yards, 8 touchdowns. This is a big time red zone threat. They used to feed him in the red zone at A&M, and about 15 yards per catch last year. But you also have to understand the context around him. For years now, certainly last year, A&M has had a quarterback problem. Connor Wegman was this 5-star Mr. Everything, was supposed to be the answer for them at quarterback. Never quite worked out for him. Is in out of lineup, injuries, benched, and now he's gone, right? And then you have Marcel Reed, who came in and is a really dynamic runner, dynamic athlete, but is still very much a work in progress as a passer. He did improve as the season went on in that regard, but early in the year, when he got that job, it was touch and go, man. And it really was never great for him throughout the season. So there was that for Noah Thomas. If you're asking, like, well, why should I be excited about this guy? He's never really did that much at A&M. Well, you kind of have to have a quarterback to throw you the football, right? And he just never really had that. I think this guy has absurd talent. He has a ridiculous skill set. It's just a matter of unlocking it. And I think with Gunnar Stockton, I think that we can. I know people are still kind of down on Gunnar. I get that. I've seen enough. I was a Gunnar skeptic at times. We'll get to him later on. You guys heard me talk about him. But I believe Gunnar is going to be the best quarterback that Noah Thomas has ever had to work with, right? And so I'm very excited about what Noah Thomas can give us. Again, can play X, can play Z for us. Colby Young, I thought coming in last year, could be that dude for us at receiver. 6'3", 215 pounds. And if you look what he did in Miami, guys, in 2 years prior to coming to Georgia at Miami, he combined for 79 receptions, 939 yards, and 10 touchdowns for the Hurricanes. Last year, the numbers weren't great. 11 catches, 149, 2 touchdowns. But he also didn't play that much, was banged up for most of fall camp, played a little bit early in the year. Then he had the off-the-field stuff and just never quite got into a rhythm for us. He's never the guy that I was hoping that he could be. But this might be the year, guys. I might have just been a year ahead with the injuries and the off the field stuff. I think Colby Young could be in line for an absolute breakout year for Georgia. Why? Well, I think he has the physical skill set at 6'3", 215 pounds. He's got the ability to go up and high point the football. He's a contested catch machine. This is what excites me about the guys at X and Z. This is why I think you want Colby Young and Noah Thomas on the field at the same time. Both these guys are contested catch machines. You put the ball anywhere near them, and they're going to go up, and they're going to get that football more often than not. And we just simply did not have guys last year that could do that for us. Now we've got at least 2 of them on the outside that are big-time contested catch dudes. And sometimes, guys, when you see one-on-one, you just got to go up there and have a receiver and go make a play. Like, how many times did Ohio State do that with Jeremiah Smith? They got one-on-one, go make me a play. How many times did Alabama do that with Ryan Williams? We saw it against us. One-on-one, with Len Humphrey, yeah, just go make a play. We didn't have a guy like that. Now I think we got 2 of them on the outside, and that's a very exciting proposition for the Georgia football team, especially when you have some dynamic talents on the inside at slot, right? It's going to be very difficult, guys. If you look at the starting unit, we'll get some of the guys that are vying to be in this rotation in a minute here. It's going to be really difficult for a defense to account for all the weapons that Georgia has at the skill position. Certainly at wide receiver, throw in tight ends as well. But how are you gonna double one guy? How do you double Colby Young when you got Noah Thomas out there? When you got Zachariah Branch or Dylan Bell in the slot? How do you shade coverage one way when you got guys that can make you pay on either side? You can't afford to leave either guy, Noah Thomas or Colby Young, on the outside. You can't really afford to leave them one-on-one. That puts a lot of stress on defenses in a way the guys we just simply were incapable of doing last year. Like, yeah, Arian Smith had great speed, right? But if they wanted to bracket him, put somebody underneath, somebody over the top, who do we have that was making them pay one-on-one consistently on the other side? We didn't really have it. This year we've got it, guys. This year we've got a number of players that can do that for us. So very excited about that group of headliners. Again, I think it's going to be some combination of Noah Thomas, Colby Young, and then in the slot, Dylan Bell or Zachariah Branch. Very excited about all those guys. And then behind them, we got some really interesting pieces, guys. So it's not just the headliners. You look at the rotation pieces. 2 players that I don't know if I could be more excited about them because I have for so long wanted us to land some of these big-time elite wide receiver prospects coming out of high school. And we've always been in it for these guys, the Ryan Williams, the Ryan Wingos of the world, the Mike Matthews of the world. I know he hasn't done much in Tennessee yet. But we've been in it for these guys, just haven't quite been able to close the deal. But things changed last year. Things changed in this last cycle, in this 2025 cycle. Now, maybe it's James Coley coming back. I know people want to say what they want to say about James Coley as an OC. That's fine. Flame away all you want there. I mean, the proof's in the pudding there. But as a recruiter, the guy's unbelievable. And he put together what might have been, man, like certainly in the Kirby Smart era, the best receiver class that we have signed. Like maybe ever in Georgia football history. Like they got to do it in the field, but in terms of like on paper, what these guys did in high school, their prep profile, we got some big time dudes. And CJ Wiley out of Milton High School, Talon Taylor out of Illinois, those are the top two headliners in this receiver class, guys. And it's not just them, but those are the two right now I think could really push for serious snaps for Georgia at receiver in year one. They're different players. Wiley, 6'4", taller, longer, a guy that is more in the vein of a Colby Young, a Noah Thomas, and his ability to go up and high point the football, win those contested catches, the 50-50 balls, and a really good athlete on top of that. He's got some deceptive speed, a longer strider, but just, man, just an all-around awesome football player with a high degree of skill at receiver. Talon Taylor is also a fantastic athlete in his own right, not quite as tall, big, not quite as long as Wiley is, but this guy is about as proficient of a route runner coming out of high school as I have seen, man. And I'm dead serious about that, guys. I follow recruiting religiously for a long time. And there's been a lot of good receivers. I'm not saying it's the best receiver I've seen coming out of high school. I'm just saying as a pure route runner, it does not get much better than Talon Taylor. This guy's ability to create separation with his ability to get in and out of breaks effortlessly is something to behold. And to be able to do that, being that proficient coming out of high school, when you haven't even had the benefit of college level coaching yet, think about how good this guy can be when he actually gets that type of coaching, that type of training. This guy can be unbelievable. And beyond just the route running, I mean, he's a really good athlete. Again, not quite the size profile of a CJ Wiley, but this is a big time receiver in his own right, just built a little bit differently. More like CJ is more of an X, whereas Taylor, I think, is going to fit in more as a Z and a slot receiver in the future. And the future could very well be this year. So I think those are some two guys as freshmen. I know they're freshmen, and you don't want to be in a position having to count on freshmen, but I think those guys are that good. I was impressed enough with what I saw from them at practice and at GA, and the fact that both those guys got some serious work with the number one offense. I think those guys are going to be able to factor in the rotation for us pretty significantly in 2025. Very excited about those guys. And then another player that I think is kind of getting lost in the shuffle this offseason is a guy that transferred into Georgia prior to last year coming over from Vanderbilt, and that's Landon Humphreys. This is a guy that I was excited about last year because he has this one thing that you just can't teach, and that is just crazy speed. That's not Arian Smith level speed, but this guy has high level speed. He's 6'2", about 200 pounds, so he can play Z for us if needed. He did at times last year. I think he's more of or he can play X for us if needed, but I think he's more of a true Z. But this is a guy that I think can make plays for Georgia. I mean, he's proven it. He didn't make a ton last year for Georgia. A big part of that was injuries. He ended up with 15 catches for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. But this guy has good size, maybe not elite size, but good size and really good speed. If you go back to the very first game of last year against Clemson, a very talented defense. Maybe the production wasn't up to their typical standard at Clemson from a year ago, but the talent was there. You guys saw late in that game in the second half, took a pass across the middle, turned it upfield, turned the burners on. He's gone, man. Touchdown. The guy has game-breaking type speed. He can be a legit playmaker for Georgia if he can stay healthy and be given those opportunities. And this year, I think he's going to have those opportunities. It would not shock me if Len Humphreys is the number 2 option at Z receiver this year. Again, I think that Dylan Bell can play slot and Z, so maybe he'll be behind Dylan Bell there as well. But I do think that you're going to see Len Humphreys play a fair amount at that Z spot for Georgia this year. I think Talon Taylor will also work in there as well. I think Taylor can play slot again as well. But when you've got guys like Zachariah Branch and Dylan Bell, there's just not as many opportunities there for him to kind of take snaps at that position. So I think those are the 3 names to watch, like to be like right there in that 2 deep in that rotation, backing up that top group of receivers for Georgia in 2025. And then beyond that, guys, there's a couple of sleepers in this class that I think people need to stand up and take notice of, and we need to make sure that we do not discount these players. Now, one guy that if you follow this podcast, if you follow this show closely, you know how high I am on this guy. because I went to practice during the coach's clinic last year, and coming back from that, one of the first things I got on here and told you guys was, "Oh my God, Jeremy Bell!" Like, what? And I know people are like, "Who? What is that? Dylan Bell's brother?" No, that's not Dylan Bell's brother. It's totally different. Bell, Micah Bell is Dylan's brother, but Jeremy Bell is a small dude. We're talking like 5'8", 5'9", maybe 160, 165 pounds, but he is a bona fide playmaker. He's a big play waiting to happen. Now, he's a slot guy all the way. He's definitely not an X. I don't think he can really play Z for us, right? Now, if you need him to, I guess you throw him out there and see what happens, but he's more of a true slot receiver. But you gotta look past the size. I know when you hear me tell you how big the guy is or how small he is, you're like, well, this guy can't play for us. And there was a time in the history of college football where guys like that just weren't going to play. They were never going to get a look. Times have changed, guys. Things have changed. And this guy is a legit elite athlete. Some of you might have seen the video going around a couple weeks ago of him jumping over like 3 of his teammates to dunk a basketball. That's not surprising to me, guys. I told you going back to spring practice, and I was like trying to make sure everyone's aware of who this guy is, saying don't sleep on him. This guy was the State of Georgia GHSA slam dunk champion. All right, slam dunk champion in high school at like 5'7". And I wasn't shocked to see those videos of him jumping over his teammates to dunk the basketball because I saw him do it at the slam dunk contest. There's videos of him doing that out there. I told you guys about that in the spring, so not surprised at all. This guy is a ridiculous athlete. He's not big, not tall, but he can go. He can leap, man. He can go up and he can get that football. And talk about speed. Talk about explosiveness, electricity. Get the ball to this guy in space and just let the man go to work. I'm not telling you he's going to start for Georgia. I don't think that's going to happen. Not this year. You got Zachariah Branch. You got Dylan Bell. You got Talon Taylor. I think can play in the slot as well. But I am telling you, Jeremy Bell is going to play real snaps for Georgia in 2025. How many? I don't know. We'll figure that out in fall camp, right? He'll get opportunities. But I'm telling you, the guy is going to play, whether that's a couple packages here and there, kind of using him the way we use Arian Smith early in Arian's career. You just want to try to loosen the defense up and take a deep shot down the field. Maybe you do that and give him 4 or 5 snaps. I don't know. But I can see this guy easily playing 10-ish snaps a game. I think he's too talented and too much of a big play threat to keep off the field. I believe in this guy, and I believe he's going to play a role in this Georgia offense. I think he's going to help us win football games. I think this guy's going to create explosive plays for the Georgia offense, even if he's not going to be a full-time player. But do not sleep on Jeremy Bell. Just telling you, don't sleep on that guy. Another guy to watch at the slot position, maybe a little bit of a sleeper here, is a guy I'm really high on. I love Sigco White. Also a small receiver, 5'9", about 180 pounds, so bigger than Jeremy Bell. I just don't know where he's going to get snaps right now. I love Sokovia. I think he's a football player. He made some plays at G-Day, just like Jeremy Bell did. And by the way, guys, if you don't believe me on Jeremy Bell, there's a reason why he spent basically the entire second half of G-Day working with the number one offense. That wasn't an oversight. That doesn't happen by accident. All that guy was doing at practice all spring long was making plays. He earned the right to work with the number one offense during the second half at G-Day. The guy can play. Just believe that. Believe that. If you haven't seen him, just wait. Just wait till you see that guy. But speaking of Sokovia, I love Sokovia too. Sokovia's a little bigger, a little more physical than Jeremy Bell is. I think he's a playmaker in his own right. Made some plays in the second half at G-Day. Again, I just don't know. There's a lot of mouths to feed a receiver this year, and a lot of talent. Like in previous years, Sigco White would have been probably one of our top receivers on this unit. Probably. But we have addressed that deficiency in such a significant way. I just don't know where his snaps will come in, barring injury. But we all know it's the SEC. If you've watched Georgia football over the past few years, you know how much of an issue injuries have been for us. It's been a problem. So he might find his way in the lineup, but I don't know. Like, is he going to play ahead of Zachariah Branch? I don't think so. Is he going to play ahead of Dylan Bell in the slot? I don't think so. Could he play ahead of Jeremy Bell? Yeah, maybe, possibly. But I don't think he's going to be one of our top 2 options. I think he's going to be fighting with Jeremy Bell to be like that number 3 receiver, kind of like that, a guy that gets some spot snaps here and there. But I do like Sigco White. If he gets an opportunity, I think he's a guy that has good speed. He's got some explosiveness in his game. He's got some physicality in his game. I think he's going to be a good receiver for Georgia. I just don't know if it's going to be this year. Then one more player to watch at receiver, another guy in this freshman class. I don't expect him to play a lot this year, but he does have one trait that can get you on the field, and that is just straight line speed. I'm talking of Landon Raldan, the receiver from North Laconia High School here in the Athens area. The guy has got to polish up his game a little bit, right? But I could see a scenario where, kind of, again, like we did with Arian Smith early in his career, you give him 2 or 3 snaps a game, you just line him up outside and say, all right, dude, just go run a 9 route. Just run a go route, and we're going to throw you the football, and we're going to see what happens, right? And maybe you can outrun the coverage, maybe not. But I can see maybe that a time or two a game, maybe every couple games he gets a shot to do that. I just, again, with all the talent ahead of him, I just do not see how he's going to be able to crack the regular rotation this year. But hey, who knows? That's what fall camp's for. Get these guys out there and see who's going to go out there and earn it. But I'm very, very, very excited about this wide receiver unit, guys. Again, I think we have some big-time headliners with Colby Young and Noah Thomas. I expect those guys to be the top 2 receivers for Georgia this year. I think Zachariah Branch is a big-time playmaker in the slot, in the screen game, the RPO game. Also, I think he might open up the vertical shot game, the slot fade, that game for us in a way that we haven't had that available to us in recent years. Although I think we probably could have used Dom Lovett in that regard a little bit more, the way he was used in Missouri, but we just didn't want to take advantage of that. I'm hopeful that we will correct that oversight, we'll call it, this season. And if what I saw at practice, if what I saw at G-Day is any indication, I think that we will, because we were giving those guys a lot of opportunities with a slot fade during G-Day, during spring practice. And I'll also say this too, guys. It was a sight for sore eyes for me at G-Day to see us basically as an automatic check. If we were getting one-on-one coverage on the outside, we were just checking whoever that was, and we were throwing it up to him. We were throwing fades, whether that was Colby Young, whether it was Noah Thomas. He went out with a little bit of an injury early on, but whether it was Talon Taylor at times, CJ Wiley at times, we were just giving guys opportunities to go make those plays because we have trust in them to do that in a way that we just simply did not have faith in our guys from a year ago. So I think our coaching staff feels different about this unit. I feel different about this unit. I think that this wide receiver room has been completely flipped, and I am very excited to see what this passing game is going to look like this year with this new crop of receivers, with the depth that we have, with the top line talent that we have. I think that we are in line for a very, very different Georgia passing game in 2025. But all right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your day to watch this episode. But we're just getting started with these position unit previews, guys. This is the first one. We're going to have one a week for you guys, leading up the rest of summer, leading up to the start of fall camp. So again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel right now, hit that notification button, like the videos, comment, let me know who you're looking for, who are you most excited about. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you out there. But thank you guys. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs.
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26-21. Dogs on top.